We're going to do another comparative analysis of different translations of the Bhagavad Gita. We're just going to do one verse again. This is chapter 6, verse 23. I'm going to read it in Sanskrit. I'm going to give you the translation that I did. I've been working on a translation of the Bhagavad Gita that will soon be published. I just thought today that I'm going to publish it on November 5th when the election will be taking place. One reason for that is the Bhagavad Gita mentions in a couple places Kamala. Kamala is means lotus, and it was maybe the more ancient way of saying lotus, because the other word is Padma. But Kamala is lotus in the Bhagavad Gita, and I don't think it uses the word Padma. It only uses the word Kamala, but I'll have to check that. But in any case, what is yoga? The Bhagavad Gita, as far as I'm aware, gives about 4 different definitions. One definition, or 2 definitions, are in chapter 2, and I believe 2 are in chapter 6. The 2 in chapter 2 are yoga is samatva, which is equanimity or even-mindedness, and then yoga karmashu kaushalam is yoga is skill in action, is the way it's generally translated, meaning yoga is skillful action without selfish attachment. And then in this chapter 6, it says that yoga is the severance of union with suffering, meaning overcoming suffering, and yoga is sannyas, which is renunciation. So let's go over this one, though. I'm going to read the Sanskrit, and then they'll go through some of the translations. Tam vidyād duḥkha-sanyoga-viyogaṁ yoga-saṅjñitam sa niśchayena yoktavyo yogo nirviṇṇa-chetasā. All right, piece by piece. Tam vidyāt yoga-saṁjñitam. Let this be known as yoga. Duḥkha-sanyoga-viyogaṁ. The dissolution of yoga with suffering. Sa niśchayena yoktavyo yoga. This yoga is to be practiced with determination. Anirvinṇṇa-chetasā. And with an undismayed mind. So let this be known as yoga, the dissolution of union with suffering. This yoga is to be practiced with determination and with an undismayed mind. This is my translation. Winthrop Sargent, that I was largely using his translation for help with this. So his translation is, let this, the dissolution of union with pain, be known as yoga. This yoga is to be practiced with determination and with an undismayed mind. The last part is the same as mine. He says, he has some commas here. Let this, comma, the dissolution of union with pain, comma, be known as yoga. Whereas I just said, let this be known as yoga, the dissolution of union with suffering. Now he says pain for dukkha. I say suffering. I think suffering is a better word. The Buddha's first noble truth was dukkha, which generally gets translated as suffering. I think suffering goes deeper. Pain doesn't go as deep. Suffering, I would translate dukkha as suffering, and I would translate sukha, which is the opposite, as joy. Right? Joy is deeper than happiness. Joy is, I think, is a deeper form of happiness, and suffering is a deeper form of pain. Sometimes in English, we talk about pain and suffering. But there's also that saying, pain is inevitable and suffering is optional. And I think that's what we're talking about here, is that suffering is optional, right? Suffering is something that you can overcome, and that's that's what you do. You practice yoga, and yoga will help you to overcome suffering, dukkha. So that's where I differ from Winthrop Sargent, just in that, basically that one word. But let's go on. Shivananda's translation is similar. He says, let that be known by the name of yoga, not let this be known, let that be known by the name of yoga, the severance from union with pain. Right? The severance from union with pain. duḥkha-sanyoga-viyogaṁ. Again, he's using pain. I would use suffering. Severance versus dissolution. Is dissolution a good word? Maybe dissolution isn't the best word. Let's see. I like dissolution, actually. I'm going to go with dissolution. But he has severance. This yoga should be practiced with determination and with an undesponding mind. Undesponding is not a word that we use much, if ever, in English. So I wouldn't use that word. I would undismayed. Even that is a little bit archaic at this point. But to be despondent, is something that we still use in English. I just wouldn't use undesponding. So his is very similar. Swami Shivananda. He did his about 100 years ago, probably. All right. Radhakrishnan, Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan. Let that be known by the name of yoga, the disconnection from union with pain. Again, pain. He uses the word disconnection, which is a good word. This yoga should be practiced with determination, with heart undismayed. So he doesn't use mind, he uses heart for cetasā. Maybe, could be, But cetasā really generally means more mind or thoughts. And where does the name come? The name of yoga, the name is not in there, right? Name is not in the Sanskrit. It's really let this be known as yoga, right? Let this be known as yoga, the dissolution of union with suffering. Whether you use this or that for tam, you could use this or that. Actually, let that be known as yoga because it's following from what came before. So that could be a good word, there. Shlokam.org. Moving on. Let it be known. The severance from the union with pain is yoga. This yoga should be practiced with determination and with the mind steady and undespairing. Again, pain. Why is everyone using the word pain for dukkha? Some people translate dukkha as pain and sukha as pleasure. And I would say, no, I would say suffering. I'm going to stick with suffering. Jayan Dayal Goyanka Gita Press, that state called yoga, which I free from the contact of which is, I think, is free from the contact of sorrow. And then in parentheses he has in the form of transmigration, meaning that you stop the cycle of samsara, right? The cycle of suffering. So he uses sorrow, which I think is closer to suffering than pain. So that state called yoga, which is free from the contact of sorrow, should be known. Nay, this yoga should be resolutely practiced with an unwearied mind. I don't think it's a great translation. It's not really faithful. It's okay. It's not really that faithful to what the Sanskrit actually says. It doesn't say nay. Does it say not nay? No, it doesn't say nay. There's no nay there. Unwearied mind. Yeah, possibly, but undismayed is probably better. Bhagavad Gita.io. By the way, I'm doing 18 different translations. So this is probably the 6th or 7th. Let this be known by the name of yoga, the severance from union with pain. Again, pain. This yoga should be practiced with determination and with an undespairing mind. Very similar to Shivananda, except he doesn't use undesponding, he uses undespairing. All right, moving on. Know this state of deliverance from association with suffering to be yoga. This yoga must be practiced with determination and with a mind free from despondency. That's Ramanuja. That's an older one, older translation. Deliverance from association with suffering. Deliverance is okay. It's kind of more biblical sounding. But he uses suffering. He does use the word suffering there. So give that to him. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. That's Srila Prabhupada's translation. Yeah, I don't... He uses miseries. Yeah, miseries possibly. But the word is dukkha. It's not plural. And it doesn't say all miseries. It just says from dukkha, right? It doesn't say arising from material contact. It's not a very close translation. But I'm not here to put down other people's translations. I'm here to my translation is trying to get closer to the actual what it actually says, right? That's what I'm more concerned about with my translation, and I'm trying to get also to what does the word generally mean in Sanskrit, right? I don't think pain is the best translation of dukkha. I think suffering is maybe the best. And remember that all these ancient traditions were originally dealing with the problem of suffering. And there is this philosophical theological concept called theodicy, which is known as the problem of suffering, or the problem of evil, or the problem of suffering. So all of these traditions are dealing with this problem of suffering. And again, Buddha started his Four Noble Truths with suffering, with dukkha, right? Which I'm translating as suffering, but most people translate it as suffering. Jeffrey Armstrong's translation: let it be known that true yoga is the dissolution of our long-time union with pain and suffering of matter. So he uses pain and suffering. He uses dissolution too, give him that, right? The yogi must reestablish themselves as the Atma with great determination and with certainty that they are not related to matter. Some of that is adding things that is not in the verse itself, not in the Sanskrit itself. He's adding some things there. Not that that's bad, he's adding some, some information to fill it out a little bit. But he's not, again, it's not a direct translation. Okay. Eknath Eswaran, one of the best translations according to many people, but he also used a more poetic translation, not a little bit more free, took more poetic license. The practice of meditation frees one from all affliction. This is the path of yoga. Follow it with determination and sustained enthusiasm. Again, not very faithful to the actual text. But, you could say that a literal translation is not necessarily the best. And a lot to be said for a nice poetic, rendering of the text. So I'm not here to put anyone down except for the next one, Sir Edwin Arnold. That happy severance yoga, call that man the perfect yogin. Steadfastly the will must toil thereto till efforts end in ease. That happy severance yoga, call that man the perfect yogin. That's not there at all, right? That's not in there at all. So that's a very free poetic translation. Very beautiful, his song Celestial. It's lovely. It's just not completely word for word, which is what I've been shooting for that myself. So anyway, Swami Mukundananda, that state of severance from union with misery is known as yog. That's it. This is like Hindi yog as opposed to yoga. This yog should be resolutely practiced with determination, free from pessimism. Yeah. Pessimism, undismayed mind, undespairing mind. It's not bad. It's a little bit more free translation. All right, moving on. BhagavadGita.org. Know that all perfection is the science of uniting the individual consciousness with the ultimate consciousness. It's a very free translation. Very free. It's almost not even translating it. If that is the translation, I think it is, verse 23. But Sri Purohit Swami, this inner severance from the affliction of misery is spirituality, not yoga, but spirituality. It should be practiced with determination, with a heart which refuses to be depressed. So he's translating yoga as spirituality. Interesting. True spirituality, right? We overcome all of our misery. So it's not a bad, none of these are bad translations. So all of these are getting, the general meaning, the general gist of it. Next one is Annie Besant and Bhagavan Das. This is the Theosophical Society. This is an old translation, probably at least 100 years old. That should be known by the name of yoga, this disconnection from the union with pain. This yoga must be clung to with a firm conviction and an undesponding mind. So that's similar to Shivananda. The undesponding is how Shivananda translated it. I wonder which one came first. Probably Shivananda, I would guess, but who knows? Pain, again, using the word pain, I don't think that's the best word. But Swami Nikhilananda, let that be known as yoga, which is severance from the contact of pain. It is to be practiced with perseverance and with an undaunted mind. Okay, so again, contact with pain, I don't think that's a great, contact of pain, don't think it's a great translation, but that's me. Srila Bhakti Gaurava Narasingha Maharaja, you should know that this state of being wherein all miseries are destroyed is known as yoga. All right. Not bad, He uses miseries instead of pain. I still would use suffering. Swami Atmananda, this state of sorrowless union is called yoga, and one should practice this tirelessly with strong determination. Sorrowless union is called yoga. All right, Swami Atmananda. So these are all good, right? Let's go back to the original. Tad vidyād duḥkha-sanyoga-viyogaṁ yoga-saṅjñitam niśchchayena yoktavyo yoga-anirvinṇṇa-chetasā. Let this be known as yoga tam vidyāt yoga-saṅjñitam, the dissolution of union with suffering, duḥkha-sanyoga-viyogaṁ. This yoga is to be practiced with determination. Sa niśchchayena yoktavya yoga, and with an undismayed mind, anirvinna-chetasā. I'm going to go with that. I think that I like that the best from what I did think about it. I did, with all of these verses, I put some thought into it, into what I think is the best translation using modern language, contemporary English, that is free of gender bias. So I took out a lot of he's, and I just put, instead of he, I put they or one. Anyway, that's it for now. It's getting a little dark and a little late here. Thank you so much for tuning in, for listening. I will be doing more of these comparative translation analyses, and I hope it's helpful. I'm wondering if you find it interesting. If it's overkill, might be overkill, but I'm going to start doing 18 different translations of a single verse, just to look at how different people are translating things. I'm just trying to make myself feel better, basically. And I'm trying to sell my book, which is going to be out soon. So anyway, help me out here. And I'll see you soon. Hari Om Tat Sat.